Welcome everyone. Today we'll have a basic guide for Wolcen, Lord of Mayhem. There's a few tips when I started the game and I think it's really nice for new players, and if you know those tips, it might help your gameplay, help you to play with other people, but just help with the details and the basic itself. Let's get right into it. The first tip. You might notice on top on the left hand corner, on the top left hand corner, you can see the ping of the game. Because it's an action RPG game, it's almost unplayable if your ping's too high. And things don't work, you can't dodge spells. So what you want to do is, instead of letting the server auto pick what server you get, and sometimes you get a terrible one, you want to pick it yourself. So for those friends that's in America, Europe or Asia, I recommend going for the lowest latency by this choice. Now because I'm in Sydney, and I see one that's in Sydney, I tried this. Guess what? It started to randomly allocate me across the Asia Pacific region, and I was getting over 200 pings, and that was killing the game. So what I did was, I tried everything. Eventually I tried Asia with lowest latency. Now I went to the main screen menu, now I restarted, and that was perfect. And this was really helpful because without the ping we can't play the game online. And followed by that, you can say, hey, why don't I just play the game offline? Well, there's a difference. If you play the game offline, if you play the game online, the characters actually are separated. So the offline characters are fully separated from the online characters. They don't actually interact, they can't play with other players. So it's purely for the offline mode, and it doesn't go online at all. It's like a separate game, or separate server pretty much. Now, followed by that, the second thing that a lot of people are having trouble with, which will come back to the main screen. Oh, this is a little risky, but we'll do it for you guys. So when you come back to the main screen, there is one thing you want to notice. The game gets much difficult as you get into the game, and this goes further. So one thing one of my veteran friends told me is that if you're here for the story mode, if you're here to just finish the story, get into the champions of Stonefall, get into the end game, what you want to do is you want to change the difficulty from normal to story mode. This will make the monsters easier, the drop rates are pretty much the same, the experience are the same, and the experience you get from the quests are the same. What's easy is about your progression. You progress the game with story quicker, you get through the game, then you get to the late game, and that's very important. So what you want to do is you want to come to the menu, you want to come to the menu, and you want to go to the game settings, you want to change this to story mode. But if you're up for a challenge, yeah, by all means go for the normal mode, and it makes more challenging for sure. The bosses are harder, the fights are tougher, and just everything try to kill you. It's not bad though, because I was constantly getting upgrades, I was looking for items, I was just maneuvering everything. I was spending a lot of gold to buy items, which is the next part I want to share with you guys. It's about economy in this game. There isn't that much trading going on because in order to trade, which we'll touch after this one, you have to party with a friend and both of you have to be very close. So what you have to do with trade is both of you have to basically invite him or he invites you to a party. Both of you go to the main screen. So you log out of your game, you go to the main menu, you join the game together. This way, both of you will be teleported to town, and this is when you can trade. And I was able to trade with my friend who's level 30 plus for this ridiculously strong, unique weapon. Now we one-shot everything we see. This weapon is so powerful, plus so much damage, and it's incredible. So trading definitely helps. And I was able to find some skills he wants to find, and we can go further. There's a lot of good things about it, and I was able to, get some gold from him as well, which he was very nice as well. So what you do is, you party first, go to the main menu, join the game together, and then trade. Yes, I was talking about currency. One way to make currency is to sell most of your blue items, and this does build up. I only pick up blue and gold items, and if I get a quest with gold items I don't use, I just pick the gold item with the most sellable value. The potions also sells for quite nice, so if you look at the rings, they sell for about 50, some of them sell for, some for 70. The potion sells for about, which is high? Ordinary? This is actually better, right? Yeah, okay, take that. The potion sells for a bit as well, so I pick up the potion as well. I also sell the gold ones if I don't need it. And this does help you build up your money. Why do you need this money, you might ask? This is when economy comes handy. The first thing you want money for is to come to the gym shop with the skill gems or the skills. You want to buy the skills you want. This reset every 15 minutes. So every time in the game, if you feel like checking your skills, come back every 10 or 20 minutes or maybe 30 minutes just to check for the skills you want. One of the rare ones we were looking for is actually Blood Fury. Makes the melee berserker build so much stronger. And I was looking for that for a long time, I couldn't find it. Eventually when I found it, it was a massive skill upgrade. and that was so powerful. I'll show you guys. It's so deadly. Basically, we do over 4,000 damage with the crits, and I can two-shot any of the boss mostly. How do you do with the skill gems? That's something I want to touch on next. So, one thing with the money is that yes, you can purchase skill gems for 2,000. Notice if you already have the skill, they do not repeat. What that means is, let's say if you already have the... I'll show you one of the skills I already have. So, one of the skills I probably already have is... Oh, I don't want to use the blade dance in case someone wants it. When arrows, I don't... Thunder blades. So, actually, I don't have any of ones. So, okay, we'll talk about it. I have the 2 repeat one. I'll do this. I'll use this as an example. So, first time, if you see a spell, notice this spell will sell for 10 of the currency over here, the purple currency. I forgot the name of it. Let's have a look. They're called, well, they're called the Primordial Affinity. The Primordial Affinity, the first spell you find will sell for 10 Primordial Affinity. The second one you find will sell for 100. I believe that's the case. So what you want to do is, if you plan to sell them, what you can do, you can learn the first one. Now that you learn the first one, this one also sells for 10. Apparently they're really cheap, so they don't sell for 100. The other ones sell for 100. So after learning the first one, what happens is you can learn any skill in the game, and it depends on the weapon you're using, it depends on your talent tree. Some of the mobility skills can be used for almost any class. The second time you find a repeat skill, I believe when you use it, you will just get affinity. The skill itself will not level up, it will not do anything to it. You have to level the spell by fighting. So let's have a look. Let's do a test round here as well. I have 410, let's use it. I have 420. So what we realize is, by using a repeated skill, it just sells it. It automatically sells it and disappears. It's not even selling to the NPC, it just sells it to itself. It turns it into the Primordial Affinity. And you have to be careful with that. Let's say if it's a spell I want to keep. I accidentally used a Blade Fury because I was maneuvering it within the inventory. I right click on it and it just disappeared. So there's no way to stop it, and it just become, you know, it become 10 affinity. That's not great. Because my other friends also want the Blade Storm. Now, followed by that, what I want to share with you guys is something you want to look out for with the skills. Some of the skills can give great mobility, so let me show you this one. This is pretty cool, right? So if you affiliate it with some correct positioning or the correct talent tree, you can get a lot of the mobility with different skills. And of course, you want to have some regeneration, you want to have some mobility, you have some damage. So you want to balance your skills in such a way you have 3 things. One is the resource regeneration. The second one is about resource spending. The third one is utility. Utility can be in the movement, where you can stun enemies with different perks. This one stuns, this one moves very far. And you can go with utility with giving yourself extra shield, extra protection, extra defense. Or you can also buff yourself and also regenerate resource. For me, the Sovereign Shot gives 300 generation and also a lot of defensive and offensive capacity. I can debuff enemy, I can get the resistance of them. So this is my early leveling part. In the late game, we'll change this. Next part of the game, which I think will be helpful for new players. The gems. What happens with the gems when you find them is you have to remember, if you socket the gems, you have to spend to get it out, and it can be very costly. So let me show you. I'll show you one of the gems I socket. So I definitely don't want to lose that weapon, it's my best. So let's go to the inventory. I socket one of the gems into this weapon, and later I was like, hey, this weapon's out of date, I want to get the gem out of it. But if you look at it, the gem itself will cost 500 to remove the gem. To purchase one of those gems of the same kind, I think it was 1,000, so I was contemplating if it's worth it to remove it or if it's not. In the early game, you might not want to socket your gems if you want to keep them for later use, because it costs you money to remove them, and sometimes it might not be worth it, because you get better gems later. But if you want it right now, feel free to socket it. Now, because we're into socketing, the next thing to look at the sockets is what happens when you socket a gem. Here, I'll use an example on one of these socketable items. We don't have anything that's socketable. I can use it on the weapon if I want to. So what I mean by that is, if you look at the weapon, this one has 3 sockets. One offensive, actually it has 3 offensive. So offensive 1, offensive 3, the offensive 2. What that means is, you can socket 3 different gems and use the offensive capacities. If I go to one of the gems here, this chips and gosh, the pronunciation. So this one, if I choose to put it, I can choose 3 spots: top, middle, and bottom. The moment you choose the spot, you will go into that spot. So it's not random. You get to pick where the gem goes, and you get to pick what effect it has. I believe the first one gives you attack speed that's pretty decent. The second one gives spell casting or spell damage. That's always the case for the offensive too. And the third one will usually be utility or hybrid. And if you look at other gems, this seems to be the case. So first one is offensive. That means your normal attack have critical attack damage for this gem. So it doesn't deal with skill damage or anything. The second one gives spell critical. That doesn't deal with normal attack. The third one deals with critical for everything. So offensive 3 is definitely hybrid. You want to be on the lookout for gems that actually give you additional resource of damage and things. I'm looking for Copperstone because it will give me physical damage. And if you look into my talent tree, which I'll show you guys very soon, it's all about the building for the leveling up for damage and also building for damage. And I'm going for a lot of the material damage, which is physical damage. And if I amplify that, every bit of the damage that add up from the gem will really help. Because if you look at the weapon, this one gives 25% all attacks with this weapon, 108 material damage with this weapon. So we build a lot of physical damage. Next up, we're going to look at the basic attributes, then we're going to look at the passives. Basic attributes and passives can be resetted at a cost. The higher level you are, the more costly it becomes. And you don't really want to reset it too early, because if you follow the difficulty of the build, if you reduce the difficulty, if you follow the guide, you will not have trouble with fighting most of the fights, even with most of the rare items. You will also get some unique items just from questing, just from fighting. I was able to get one unique. What do you want unique? Hey, I had an axe here. It disappeared. I had a red axe here. Something happened to the server. They ate my axe. Sometimes server does get rerolled. You have to be really careful with that. So what I meant is, you can actually build in a lot of damage, and you can build for magic, for offensive damage. And the higher you have one particular attribute, the more bonus to attributes you get from it. So you don't want to specialize into, one to everything. You kind of want to at least have one dominant stats, because that dominant stats will give you additional bonus attributes because it's been a dominant one. For me, it's mostly attack, and this gives the critical chance. And because of that, we actually crit a lot more often than normal. We're critting at 1 in 3 times, so 36%. I'm going for more crits. I'm also going for attack speed and other builds. So right now my normal attack is about 600. When I crit, it's about 1200. When my spell also have the special effect triggered, I hit anywhere from 2000 to 3000. And I'm only level 23, which is not bad. Lastly, let's look at the talent tree. This is a very complicated and little overwhelming for me initially. I won't say I'm an expert to this, but after a bit of gameplay, after a bit of fiddling around, I think it's the best if we start from the start. We go for one of the end perks, and after getting the end perks, we want to look at what is associated to it. We want to go to the 2 next to it. If we go for the 2 that's next to it, then we pretty much get the leveling going. Once we get the leveling going, you get the hang of the game, then you can be creative, you can respect, you can go for other things. Let me try to explain what do I mean by the end. Here I want a bit of attack speed, and the Child of Fury gives me attack speed, gives me life regen, and I lose resistance because of that. I went further with the perks for more additional life regen and attack speed, and I think that was good, but I wanted a little bit more. So I checked the ones on the side. If this one is what I want, I checked those 2 on the side. This one gives me damage from fire, from burning, that's used for AoE damage, a little bit more burst damage with fire, but I can't be guaranteed I'm going for fire. So what I wanted is I want to turn the resource generation into the rage generation. I'll be using everything that's raged for my character. So here I'm regenerating range instead of losing range. And with the rage, the next perk we have is with more rage than 750, which I always do have. I have 100% more damage with my casting, and this is very strong because I'm sitting on 1000 rage, and all of a sudden with my Blaze-Storm, I double the Blaze-Storm damage, and this hits anywhere from 3000 to 4000 when I crit. And followed by that, after deciding I want to go for those 2 first for damage, because you want to clear the story fast and you want to progress to the late game, next thing I'll look for is any survivability, anything I can go with that, or maybe utility. So I look on the side, it only took me 1 point into the next branch, which is the circle branch, and this does offer me a bit of the defensive capacity with the when you're not being hit, you gain the tenant points up to 5, so 75% damage reduction because you haven't been hit for a while. And this even builds further into almost 100% damage reduction if you haven't been hit for a while, which is not bad for early game farming because I'm fully offensive and most units don't survive that quickly with me. They die in 1 or 2 shots. With the skill tree, you have to be aware you can spin them, so always be on the lookout to spin them to see if you can get a better perk out. And if you're spinning them, you can spin them 3 ways. So the best balance of things is to look for the branch that associates best with your build. So here I went for all the weapon damage, all the critical chances, and after going here, I might be going for something else by perking onwards onto the side, or might be taking one of those other perks. I won't say I'm excuse me, coughing a little bit. I won't say I'm an expert on the skill perks because I haven't participated in the beta, and the beta only allows for the 2nd tier of the skill tree. Most of the beta players have not been able to see the 3rd tier anyways. Because this is newly unlocked, we're also learning about it. Something that's really fun, I think it will be interesting on the late game farm, is about this academic fieldwork. You get a headhunter stack for more damage you deal, and the more units you kill, the golden ones, the more damage you deal. This is great for in-game farming because you'll be farming a bunch of units and you just get lots of damage. You want to be on the lookout again for the branch potential, and sometimes you do have a particular set of spells that gives you additional damage. Let's have a look at that. I remember this, yeah, this is one. This perk, when you are dealing secret damage, it can instantly kill units 15% or below. Now those are the normal units you can kill. If you get the next perk, you can instantly kill champion units 15% or below. This might not sound too strong, but if you are actually fighting a really strong unit, you literally lowering their HP by 15%, which is not bad of a source of damage. And there's a lot of other perks, we'll get into it, but as a beginner, I recommend going deeper into the tree, get lots of damage if you want, get lots of utility or build your build, and then perk forward into the more rewarding ones in the later circles. So yes, this is what I summarized after many hours of gameplay on the first day of release. I definitely will have something more insightful for you guys to come, and stay tuned on the channel. I'll definitely be looking into more builds to come. So let me know if there's one thing you guys want to see, I'll look into that, and I'll be looking into different builds. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm having lots of fun with Wolcen. The only downside is sometimes we don't log in that easily because it's so popular. What I recommend to do is keep trying to log in, and if you log in, make sure you have the right region. Because I logged in once after 10 minutes of queuing, or trying. I logged in, it's 300 ping, I was like, you gotta be joking me. So I made sure my ping was correct when I logged in. Now I'm always on about 20 ping, so that's really important. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time on Wolcen Guide or Wolcen Gameplay. Thank you so much.